But now we have one side led by a dictator-in-chief who's decided to throw these values into the dustbin of history. And when Joe Biden said in 2020 that this fight was about the soul of the nation, this moment right now was what he was talking about.
So today, the DNC held its summer meeting, and it basically went exactly how you would expect. Keep in mind, the Democrats currently face a lot of trouble, but the DNC specifically, the party organization, really faces three major challenges at the moment. First and foremost, they are hemorrhaging cash, as we've been telling you time and time again. Coincidentally, at the same time that USAID was defunded, the Democratic National Committee is dirt poor broke. They only have about $15 million currently in cash reserves, and they're even floating the idea of having to take out an emergency loan simply to finance the party, which is not a situation you want to be in, obviously, before the midterms. Similarly, as we covered just a couple days ago, they're currently neck deep in a voter registration crisis, right? They're hemorrhaging voters nationwide. People are switching their registrations to independent and Republican in the millions. And lastly, they of course have an image problem. I think at the current moment, the big consensus among Democrats is, look, we have to appear relatable to Americans. And this whole idea that we're woke or crazy, that's a misnomer, right? That's a right-wing conspiracy theory. We're normal people just like you. Well, with all of that in mind, I like to ask the question leading into today's DNC, do you think they accomplished any of that, right? Do you think they, first of all, showed any evidence that they're raising money and actually now being led by competent party leadership? Newsflash, the answer there is no. And perhaps more importantly, in terms of the image that they're going to present to the American people, did they prove remotely that they're like normal and not woke at all? Well, keep in mind, I'm not trying to platform some random person on TikTok to say, hey, look, this is how crazy leftists are. No, we're indeed here going to react and listen to the very words that were spoken at the Democratic National Committee, right? The officially endorsed statements of the party itself. And I think what you're rapidly about to find out here is these people have not changed one single bit. They have not learned any lessons from 2024. And I guess the attempt here at a rebrand is not going so well. So today I want to recap the full lowlights of the little DNC meeting here today in Minneapolis, including a very incoherent, angry, and rambling speech from none other than Tim Walz. You want evidence, by the way, that they've not changed a bit? Hey, they're platforming Walz yet again. So we'll get into it. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, so I think on the subject of the DNC, as we're about to get in here to the words of the chair, Ken Martin, it's important to remember all of this in the backdrop of all the chaos the DNC has been in the past couple of months. You obviously have the drama with David Hogg and him basically tearing apart the party internally, but I'd also like to point out, if we are to believe the supposed myth that the DNC is now sort of fixing its situation, that this guy right here, Ken Martin, the former chair of the Minnesota Democrat Party, has already gone on camera in his little private leak tape here with David Hogg and admitted that this is a guy, again, leading the DNC now, that doesn't know what he's doing. He's crying because he doesn't feel like he is able to achieve stable leadership. And instead of saying, okay, we need to get this guy out of here, he still to this day is in charge and leading the party. So it tells you a lot about like how their fixing of their problems is really going. But let's first of all remember what was said on this tape just 2 months ago when it came to David Hogg and the whole drama over there internally at the party. And then we'll show you, we'll give you an update here in a second on, well, how are they doing now? So take a listen.
And I'll say, look, it has plenty of warts, and we're all trying to change those for sure. But the longer we continue this fight, the harder it is for us to actually do what we all want to do, which is make a difference in this country again. So I deeply respect you, David. I too was looking forward to working with you, but this has created a situation, and I'll be very honest with you, for the first time in my 100 days on this job, and Jessica knows this, The other night I said to myself for the first time, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And partly not because of the stress and all the naysayers, right? I'm used to that. I've spent 14 years as a chair. I'm used to getting beat up on. But, this is really everything, from this election, this credentials report, and how Malcolm's been treated in this, to, the fact the election itself, how Shasti and Gina were treated in this. I'm just quite frustrated to be in this position, because what you've done, whether you like it or not, or know it or not, David, is no one knows who the hell I am, right? I'm trying to get my sea legs underneath of me and actually develop any amount of credibility so I can go out there and raise the money and do the job I need to put ourselves in a position to win. And again, I don't think you intended this, but you essentially destroyed any chance I have to show the leadership that I need to. So it's really frustrating. Jane.
Yeah, well, that doesn't exactly inspire confidence for the people leading the Democrat Party right now. They're literally breaking down in tears. They're admitting that they're unable to lead. No one can do anything. But of course, maybe that video is 2 months old. Let's see where we are now, right? How's the DNC doing today at today's meeting? Because it's also worth remembering that, hey, if we're going to believe the theory that maybe Democrats are evolving a little bit, learning from their past mistakes, that the last DNC meeting just back in February was a completely chaotic, disastrous, woke, many other things nightmare.
Hello, Democrats. Hey, I am speaking, and I would love your attention. There is a black woman at this podium, and I deserve your attention like the 11 people who went before me. Yes, I am speaking.
Good evening, Democrats. Look up here. 3 strong black women standing before you. 3 black women who, rather than just grabbing a chair, ran for chair.
Te quiero mucho, Papa. Gracias por todo. My name is Artie Blanco, Freddie Blanco's daughter. Vote for me for vice chair.
Look at this room, y'all. Truly take it in. This is the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and that's barely scratching the surface of the absolute atrocity we witnessed back in February. But okay, let's see how the DNC is now. Again, are they woke? Have they learned anything? Are they not presenting a message that's in touch with the American people? Well, it certainly did not get off to a very good start today, as the DNC meeting began, of all things, not with the Pledge of Allegiance, not with a prayer, nope, rather a land acknowledgement that Minneapolis, Minnesota, where they were holding this event on, is on stolen land, and we still live in a system of oppression. That's right, they actually did this. They did the stolen land acknowledgement as their party, again, is trying to say, hey, we're not woke, we're more sensible, we're normal Americans. This is clearly what normal Americans do, right? Every day before their breakfast, every day before they start work, everyone does a stolen land acknowledgement. Everyone knows this, right? Take a listen.
Lindy Somek, who is from the Saginaw Ojibwe Nation, and she's going to deliver our land acknowledgement today. Lindy.
Bonjour, Lindy Somek, Nindichinikas, Amekdodam, Saginaw Chippewa Dojaba, Anishinaabe Kwe and Dao. Good morning, DNC members, friends, and relatives. Let's talk about the land for a second. The DNC acknowledges and honors the Dakota Oyate, the Dakota people, who are the original stewards of the lands and waters of Minneapolis. The Dakota cared for the lands, lakes, and the Wapatonka, the Great River, the Mississippi River, for thousands of years before colonization. This land was not claimed or traded. It's a part of a history of broken treaties and promises. And in many ways, we still live in a system built to suppress Indigenous peoples' cultural and spiritual history. As Democrats...
Yeah, well, needless to say, it's pretty clear here that nothing has changed. This is still the exact same Democrat Party as 2024, as 2020, as 2019. These people have not rebranded a bit. It doesn't matter how many times Pete Buttigieg cusses on a podcast and says the Republicans are BS. These people are still no more sane or normal or rational as they were just a few years ago. And of course, I think this video also greatly summarizes the paradox that the Democrat Party exists in. Because on one hand, they claim that they are a part of American politics, They're running for American office. They ultimately want to control the American government. And yet nothing they do or represent is indicative of that. Not just merely on like ideological differences of, oh, should we have lower taxes or higher taxes? No, I mean that on a very basic level. When their political constituency that they're constantly appealing to is not even American, right? Who is it? It's like illegal aliens, foreign nationals, foreign nations, fraudsters and criminals, right? And secondly, even with this, right, the land acknowledgement, I mean, first of all, I think it's a pretty obvious question. If it's stolen land, then why don't you leave? Instead of doing these obnoxious, ridiculous virtue signaling speeches about it, why don't you get off the land? And if that's the case, also, why do you even have white people running for office? Shouldn't all the Native Americans be representing the land that's supposedly theirs? And then thirdly, of course, how can you claim that you're trying to run for office to represent anything of Americans when you don't even believe America belongs to Americans? Like, what kind of stance is that, right? It makes absolutely no sense here whatsoever, but needless to say, here they go. And again, they think this is what normal Americans do, apparently. Everyone does their land acknowledgement in the morning, don't you know? But okay, whatever, a little woke ceremony in the beginning. Let's see if anything gets better. Let's see if the message from the Democrat Party in terms of substance and the real policy ideas they're laying out is remotely at all indicative of what American people feel like. Well, with that said, here you have a speech from some woman who works at a left-wing think tank called the Vera Institute. And she says the following, and I quote, here's the actual statement. Migrant crime and carjackings are things that don't matter to many Americans. Crime, apparently, does not matter to Americans. Americans don't yearn for safe streets and lower crime and all of those things. They're not concerned about the crime rate in the very communities they live in. And apparently, according to Democrats, this is the message that's going to win back the House in 2026. Again, I'm saying that because this is not something on a TikTok or a YDSA convention. This is the DNC, where they're actually saying these things. Take a listen.
Issues voters care about. Where does Trump go? Migrant crime, carjackings, the really lurid, awful stuff that is a crazy, crazy visual. Don't take the bait, because most Americans are more worried about how are we going to address mental health issues, the visible homelessness that we see on streets, and how do we deal with mental health and other issues that drive the sort of random incidents that scare all of us. That's what you should be talking about. That's where you should be focused. Don't take the bait in talking about migrant crime or carjackings or the things that actually don't matter to that many Americans.
So breaking news, guys. The stance of the Democrat Party is that normal Americans do not care about crime or migration, migrant crime, any of these issues. Which, I mean, first of all, I'd like to say, tell that to the family of Lake and Riley. You can look at polling. I'm pretty sure they do, actually. But you know what? Forget all of that stuff. Let's test this in a very simple way. Okay, do Americans care about illegal immigration and crime? The answer is yes. You know how I know that? Forget the errors you might see in a national survey. There's a very objective national survey we can look at, and it's called November 5th, 2024. What were the election results in November? What were among the top issues that dictated it? There's how you know that Americans care about these very issues. Number one, okay? Your little think tank study. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. No, you don't. But even secondly, you hear the brilliant Democrat answer to these things. They're claiming that the real issue is mental health and homelessness, which perhaps in some cases is true. Except the problem I think Democrats miss is even if you shift the conversation to that, it still is a losing issue for Democrats. Because guess where the majority of these homeless are congregating? Democrat-ran cities, obviously. Mental health, what do people associate a lot of these crazy crackheads with? The effects of Democrat soft on homeless policies. By the way, as we speak right now, what happens anytime, as you saw even in DC, when they try to get these mentally ill and oftentimes drugged up homeless people off the streets? This is not a joke. You have people who are so-called homeless rights activists that try to sue and protest and argue the homeless have a right to be on the streets. This is insulting to them, right? That literally happened in DC. They moved the homeless to shelters, and liberals were in the streets and activists as well, right? Protesting, saying that they should have a right to stay where they are. And of course, you really want to address mental health. I would say reopen the insane asylums, But no. Surely if we just have like a social worker, because Democrats don't support the insane asylums, obviously. So if we just send some social workers to go and, help out the homeless, give them needles like they do in San Francisco, be very compassionate. Apparently that's the answer, right? This is the result. How many millions of dollars, guys, do you think this think tank raises to, analyze the political issues? Understand that this is what Democrats say is the best messaging. By the way, she claims again, Americans don't care about crime, but they care about mental health. That's what everyone is going and thinking of when they vote at the ballot box, right? Mental health issues. Amazing, guys. This is the political class in 2025 still advising the Democrat Party and the ideas it should practice. Truly astonishing. And with that said, we also have Tim Walz, who made an appearance today. And as usual, he's screaming incoherently. So take a listen.
And I am proud of this state like so many others. And I will have to tell you, the privilege of my lifetime was stand beside someone we know was the most qualified and would have been a fantastic president in a President Harris. And look, we wouldn't wake up every day to a bunch of shit on TV and a bunch of nonsense. We would wake up to an adult with compassion and dignity and vision and leadership doing the work, not a man-child crying about whatever's wrong with him. May his fat ankles find something today. Petty as hell. But look, I think for each and every one of you, I know you got a busy day ahead of you. I'm grateful for the work you do. I'm grateful for the focus and my friend Ken. Think of how easy it would be to be a damn Republican. Oh, what should I wear today? This stupid freaking red hat. What should I say today? I don't know. Just make sure it's cruel. Who do we listen to? That guy. Oh, the felon in the White House? Yeah, listen to him and that will be fine. Now he's talking about burning flags. He's going to have flag burning or whatever. Because he knows there's a hell of a lot of flags with his picture on it that are going to get burned.
Yeah, so the normal behavior, Tim Walz just being Tim Walz. So many idiotic Democrat pundits claim he's so relatable. Remember what they said in 2024? He's like a average dad. He's so funny and clever and witty. Well, there you have him screaming about Trump's fat ankles, which is kind of ironic coming from Tim Walz, and then just attacking the voters. Because that's how Democrats are going to win it back, right? You call Republican voters idiots, then the Republican voters will come vote for you, especially when that's coming from Tim Walz, one of the smartest individuals, as we all know, in existence. He's such a normal guy, The way he kicks like a ballerina on stage, that's what normal, straight American men are always doing, Okay. So anyways, the situation gets worse. Because we're kind of establishing by now, right, Democrats still, despite the fact that they should have learned their lesson about this, still continue to pick the least popular political issues to constantly defend and die on. They actually took the bait today, even on the meme, right? Even on this question of men playing women's sports, the transgender sports issue, something that you would think by now, even some Democrats are claiming they abandoned. They're saying, it's not that big a deal, okay? You right-wingers, you keep just putting words into our mouth. Well, here you have, by the way, Keith Ellison, who is a former figure of Obama and Democrat Party politics. He's currently considering actually running for governor, regardless of whether Tim Walz goes for another term. And here you have him today, again, behind this very podium. So let that be said, right? They're endorsing this. This is not some random person at the DNC podium defending the fact that Democrats, yes, indeed, we're not making up this position, still want boys to compete in girls' sports. They're still weird. They're still deranged to this day. And yes, they've learned absolutely no lessons. Take a listen.
Dude, 44 times. And we'll sue him 44 more and 44 more after that. And we have sued them for gender-affirming care. Yes, we are not going to scapegoat our transgender community. And we have sued them to stand up for medical research, National Institute.
So just remember that the next time Democrats try to say that they're not radicals on this gender issue and Republicans need to stop making elections all about this garbage, because there you have them. And by the way, the receipts are there. Every single one of these issues, whether it's the sports thing, or it's the so-called gender-affirming care for minors. In the words of Keith Ellison, dozens of times, every single time, Democrats sued to block any kind of common sense reform. And well, I guess you wonder, by the way, why they continue to bleed cash, bleed support. Perhaps this is a reason why. So with that said, I think it's a relevant question as to, look, now that things have kind of settled down at the DNC, you don't have a civil war with David Hogg anymore. You had a new August meeting. We're turning the page, as Glenn Walz, Tim Walz's wife, infamously said. How are they doing? Well, newsflash, in the month of August, especially, even following today's meeting, which I'm going to take a wild guess is not going to change anything, okay? The DNC is still completely struggling and going broke even in the month here of August. As you can see, according to this report out of Liberty Nation News, yes, indeed, the Democrat Party is bleeding cash and the transfusions have dried up. The RNC is currently sitting happily on $80 million as of June. The DNC sitting at $15 million, hoping for a different outcome here. And even just this week, you had the folks over on MSNBC crying that this is indeed a 5-alarm fire, as the Democrats hold another meeting to pretend like everything is fine, when it clearly is not.
Money is hurting right now.
We do see some of what he's talking about, Antoine, in the polling, right? If you look at a poll earlier this month, showed 23% of Democrats have a positive view of their party, 35% negative, using words like weak and ineffective. Is this a leadership problem with Ken Martin and the DNC? Is it a messaging problem? Is it an overall malaise? How do you read this?
Well, let's add some background color to this picture. First of all, Democrats do not have the House, the Senate, or the presidency, and some would argue we do not have the courts. And so when we are in that position, naturally, Republicans are going to have a different kind of money grip on the money structure in Washington and around the country. That's expected. But here's what I look at. I look at the facts, not the feelings.
I'll be honest. I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, they have power, and power attracts money. They have also donors who are willing to give and who have the ability to give that we do not have. Our money has been powered by grassroots, everyday activists and everyday Americans who just want to give towards a cause. And here's what I'm proud of about the DNC.
And as you can clearly see, they're just coping about it, right? They're just making all of the excuses and nonsense in the world. That's completely ridiculous, by the way. First of all, you claim you can't fundraise money because you're not currently in power. No, actually, oftentimes that is a catalyst for fundraising, because the outrage of people, supposedly, according to you, hating Trump, being upset, wanting things to change, right? Change the status quo. That is a catalyst for fundraising. Yes, it is true sometimes that the incumbent party, just because of the power structure, are able to raise more money. But the $15 million only that the DNC is sitting on right now, by the way, as compared to back when you guys had Act Blue and USAID allegedly going for you, back in the 2010s, at the end of the first Trump presidency, Democrats always enjoyed a cash advantage. 2020s, same exact thing. It's only now that that situation is starting to inverse itself. No, it's not because you guys don't have power. It's because you guys don't have motivation or will or support. And of course, the second excuse he makes is, this age-old trope, the big lie, frankly, of American politics, that Democrats don't have as much money because we're grassroots, right? That's the excuse. Like, we don't take money from these billionaires. Really? Do you expect us to just forget the 2024 and even 2020 election, where the majority of Silicon Valley and major oligarchs in America, with maybe one exception in Elon Musk and a few others, contributed to Kamala Harris's $1.5 billion campaign? You mean to tell that was all just from normal Americans donating $10 because they were that passionate about the Democrat Party? Oh, really? Then why did she not win the election? She didn't win the election because the majority of her support was indeed coming from the elites of America. The Democrats don't have wealthy donors. Yes, you do. Your wealthy donors are not giving to you right now because they don't have faith in the utter incompetence of this party, or who knows, maybe they've switched sides. And similarly, your supposed grassroots. Okay, so where is your grassroots then? Because if we're even to believe the theory that all along the Democrat fundraising was grassroots, which it never was, okay, but under grassroots fundraising, you guys had plenty of money in the 2020s. Oh, but Biden was president. Okay. First Trump presidency, you guys were raising a bunch of money. No, what changed? What changed is, first of all, 2024 broke you guys because it was a total rejection of your ideas. And secondly, of course, these shady cash power structures like ActBlue that were allowing for suspicious financial transactions no longer are available in their old capacity. And it turns out you guys never had the wide-scale support you think you do. Whether that's in terms of finances or in terms of when you look at the current redistricting battle, right? The idea of sort of the 50-50 split of America, none of these things are accurate. No. So you guys are screwed. But anyways, there you see the excuses and the coping, right? Still claiming everything is fine. So there you have it, guys. With that said, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What do you think of the current state of the DNC? Are you shocked to find out that when they're doing crap like this, they can't raise any money? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.